If you've heard anything about ancient Greek philosophy, you've heard of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. The first two, really, come as a package, since what we know about Socrates comes almost entirely from the writings of his student, Plato. Aristotle, in turn, studied under Plato, but these two men did philosophy in very different styles, with Plato emphasizing an abstract, almost mystical approach, while Aristotle countered with an emphasis on empirical observation. The stereotype of the armchair thinker who doesn't feel the need to check his beliefs against real-world facts fits Plato better than Aristotle. But for our purposes, their points of agreement are much more important than their differences. We're going to focus on Aristotle because there are a couple of ways in which Aristotle is the iconic figure for classical Greek philosophy. For one thing, there is the sheer volume of his legacy. Aristotle left behind more written work on a wider range of topics than Plato or anyone else of that day. For another thing, in reputation, Aristotle outlasted all the others. It's true that for an entire millennium, Plato held the place of highest honor, but this is in part a historical accident. When the western half of the Roman Empire fell to invaders, and libraries were sacked and burned, most of Plato's works survived. Aristotle was less lucky. 2 or 3 texts survived, but most were lost. In the West, that is. The eastern half of the Roman Empire, however, lived on for another 1,000 years. There, Aristotle's works were preserved. When they were rediscovered in the West, Aristotle immediately moved to the top of the philosophical A-list and bumped Plato down to number 2. I'll tell you a little more about that part of the story later on. For now, take a look around and try to imagine the palace that once stood here. Philip of Macedon ruled this part of the world, and it was here that he brought the man he had hired to tutor his son. The tutor was Aristotle, fresh from Plato's school in Athens. The young prince is known to history as Alexander the Great. If you happen to watch the Oliver Stone film about Alexander, look for a guy with the same face as Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. That's Aristotle.